So this brings us into Ashes Divide, and I'm, not to bring up old shit as they say, but I think it dovetails nicely into your 2022 record. The thinking in terms of using a band moniker as a way to present the solo stuff versus just putting your name on it.
Yeah.
The pros and cons of that. What was the thinking at the time of it being kind of a, Trent Reznor, Nine Inch Nails, it's a guy and it's a band.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think that was the model I liked and only knew and only would entertain. I'd never considered using my name. It was like that was not gonna happen. So yeah, I was searching for a band name, and yeah, Nine Inch Nails probably messed me up. I think it's a great name. It's strong, it's ambiguous, it's phonetically pleasing, it's got almost a alliteration thing to it. It's got a lot of great things about it.
It's so symmetrical as an acronym.
Yeah, it's amazing. I like Black Light Burns. I think that's a great name.
Yeah.
But I had a record deal. I had a finished mastered record. We had a single designated, and I had no band name. And it got to the point where Rob Stevenson, like the record company's like, look, we need a band name. Like, you've got it. Time's up. You've had time. And I had my list of choices and people around me coming up with names. And I don't even remember where Ashes Divide came from. It might have been through Jeanette Napolitano, who was helping me with that record. She was, co-writing some stuff with me. And I don't know. It was a little bit like I had to have a name. So I liked the name, but it wasn't something, even from day one, that I drove the car off the lot and wasn't quite sure about.
You suddenly you were back at the Stone Pony. We don't have a name. What's our name?
Yeah, lack of commitment, right? I mean, the naming commitment thing with me is obviously an issue. And now I'm here not second guessing using my name, but there is some confusion, and I get it. When it's listed as Billy's new debut solo album, they're like, well, wasn't Ashes your solo album debut?
Yeah.
Yes, under this name. Yes, you're right. Technically, yes. But this is my second solo effort under a different name. And yeah, I mean, same personnel, really. It's very close. I mean, the first Ashes record was Downey was helping me produce a couple tracks. He was much more involved this time. Josh Freese played all the drums. Josh played most of the drums on this record. Different mixer, but other than that, it's kind of a very similar situation.
It could be a sophomore Ashes Divide record in a sense.
And it was until this past August. I mean, it was literally in the beginning, when I started writing these songs and started sounding different, and it started sounding quite different than the first Ashes record, I was like, I don't know that this is Ashes Divide. That I would identify as Ashes Divide, right? But I mean, there's things before us that have happened that are so different. And I could point to Ministry, right? Like I love the first Ministry record. It has nothing to do with the rest of Ministry, right? And
right.
I don't know. Yeah. Rumor Al Jordan doesn't really. He agrees. I don't know if they do any of those songs, but that first Ministry record was a huge influence on me. I got that record when it came, back when it came out when I was a teenager, and it was amazing. I still listen to it. I'd say that's one of the records that stays in my rotation. Adamant, Kings of the Law Frontier, Pornography from The Cure, Japanese Whispers from The Cure, Tinderbox from Susie and the Banshees, and Ministries of Sympathy. I think it's up there for me. And I think you could probably say was influential on this record, on what Normal was. So Ashes, yeah, the first and only record, it came off of cleansing the palette with that video game, getting into, okay, I'm going to do something faster than I've ever done before. I kind of stay in mid tempos or a little bit more, trying to find the rhythm, and polyrhythms are a little easier to kind of latch onto. And the way that rhythm kind of turns me on, it just usually works maybe in a little slower sense. So I was just kind of trying to push the envelope a little bit with the Ashes record. Yeah.
And how do you feel about how that was received? Did it seem like people understood it and took to it? Does it, in getting it out there? And I mean, because on the one hand, your first real band that did things was APC, you've kind of put yourself in this situation now 3 times where like you're starting over.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Glutton for punishment, right? I mean, yeah, rebranding something is tough. I have to say, I'll full disclosure, like a song came out yesterday and I was like, it's just not the same as it was. You know, yesterday was the song that I think was really going to have an impact. And it's not the same feeling as it was in 2000 or 2004, you know, like that's just not the thing. Even in 2008, there was still somewhat of a record industry where people bought records so it could support more of a system to promote your stuff.
Yeah.
Now it's very much not DIY, but you know, I'm signed to Alchemy Records through BMG, but it's not, there's not armies of people handling every little detail. There's a lot of stuff that you have to, you know, oversee, work hard, roll up your sleeves and get into. And it's tough for me. I want to make music, perform music. And I mean, the art part is interesting and I want to do it, but I usually like to like plant a seed and have somebody complete it. And we've got some great artists we're working with now, but you know, it's more of a distraction, I should say. But luckily the record was done, so I didn't get distracted in making the music. But now in getting ready for the show, it's taking a lot of time. Where it's like, it's time for me to like forget all that, forget about everything else except for practicing for this upcoming tour.
Hence the hecticness right now. Well,
Yeah.
I want to don't want to skip over Eat the Elephant. Now,
Now let's talk
looking
about
at
it.
what's that?
Now let's talk about it. Yeah.
The elephant in the room. If you look at it on a piece of paper, that is quite a gap between emotive and Eat the Elephant. But even Ashes Divide. I mean, the 2008 to 2018, 10 years.
Yeah.
What was kind of going on there? Like, and did you think, I suppose the question is what changed to go from there's no Perfect Circle happening to suddenly there's a new record and the band is
I think like one thing that was interesting that kind of restarted the idea of something happening with APC was back in 2010, Maynard and I performing Bohemian Rhapsody at the Staples Center for some video game event, right? That he was there to sing with the LA Philharmonic Orchestra,
right.
Playing Bohemian Rhapsody. And I think the deal was, what I understand is Brian May was supposed to play guitar, and it was such an enormous production that, you know, it's probably like 2 people coming over with clipboards and going, oh, they're ready to rehearse right now. Like Maynard's there and the orchestra's there. And they're like, where's Mr. May? And it's like, oh, by the way, he's in London. He couldn't make it. It's like, so Maynard calls me. I'm asleep at this time. This is like, something happened where I was going to bed really early. I was like 8:30 at night. And I was like, had a crazy day. I get a call, or my wife picks up the phone and says, Popilea, you know, like, what's up? She wakes me up. She's like, honey, it's Maynard. He sounds, you know, it's important. It's like, okay, I'm half asleep. He goes, whatever it was. Hey, dickhead, you know how to play Bohemian Rhapsody, right? And I go, what? Who is this? And he goes, he knows how to play it. Okay, cool. Come down to such rehearsal tomorrow. We're gonna work this out. I go, I hang up the phone. I go, honey, was that Maynard? Like, I went back to sleep and like woke up the next day like, oh shit, I got to learn this. And then I started learning that song, and I play in C sharp. All my guitars are in C sharp. I've always been. Started learning it. I didn't know the song. Never played it. Started learning it in C sharp and realized I got to the middle. I was like, oh my God, I can't hit the notes. Those are too high notes for me to hit on this guitar. Oh my God, I got to unlearn everything I did. Now I've got 24 hours left to learn this song and be in front at a state, you know, a big arena. And everyone knows that song. You can't mess it up. So that was nerve-wracking. I never played it better than I did on stage, all the way up until that point. So long story short, getting to that thing, I think brought us back together to play. Now, again, thinking in 2022 time, that was a no amount of time between 2004 and 2010. That was 6 years. Now we're looking at these other time gaps. But to me, it was a long break. The year after that, 2011, we did each of our 3 APC albums, one per night in select cities on the West Coast. And I think that was like dusting off the cobwebs and getting ready for something more that would come. And I think he was really trying to get Pussifer off the ground at that time. So we did some touring, 2011 and 13. But, you know, between him, whatever was happening with Tool or Pussifer, and me kind of imagining where my thing would go, and, you know, us having families and stuff, it got delayed, you know, for a
Yeah.
year. Nothing concrete and defining, but yeah, so that's kind of where it went. And then finally, as of 2016, okay, let's do this. Let's make a record.
Were there conversations about what kind of record you wanted to make, or what, you know, did you have stuff that was in the bank that could maybe move
Yeah.
over to that, or, you know, what was that?
Yeah, I had things in the bank for sure. I had a few things that I sent to him, and, you know, I want to get his reaction. Like, I'm writing by myself in a room with no input, right? So I'm kind of in a vacuum, and I'll throw some things at Maynard that I think he might like, but some that I think, I don't know if he'll like, you know, because he will surprise you in latching onto something. The Doom was one in particular. It was just the orchestra part that I wrote first, the kind of breakdown, that basically I don't know if you call it the chorus. I don't know. It's hard with choruses and verses, but that it started there. And then he kind of goes, that's interesting to me. I was like, okay, give me a minute. And, you know, like 2 days later, I wrote basically the whole song. And I think that was the first one he really latched onto. It was really like, okay, give me a mic right now. And threw down the first scat, and it was amazing. No words, just la-las. And that's the process, you know. It was just from there. He wrote words quickly and tracked that beginning demo. And then, but the E.T. Elephant record was much different than every record. You know, up until that point, I had produced and mostly engineered everything that we had done. This was, I wanted an outside producer just to see what it was like to have, you know, it was like having older sisters, right? I don't want my sister to watch me anymore. I want to hire an outside babysitter, see if he'll let me ride his motorcycle when I'm not dead or whatever.
Right.
So it just seemed interesting to me to like do that. So my manager knew Dave Sardi from working with him through Rick Rubin, met him and didn't really entertain anything else. He said, okay, cool. He seems into the music, and let's give this a try. So it was a different experience for sure.
And the record has Matt Chamberlain on it, and like there's multiple drummers credited on that record. Is that right?
Isaac Hayes, right? Or Isaac Carpenter. Matt Chamberlain, man, what a similar in finesse to Josh, but just like very sophisticated drummer, very like appropriate to what you're playing. You know, it's really amazing.
Utilitarian. It seems like he can adapt even to different styles and within different bands.
Yeah.
And then, go ahead. Sorry.
No, and then it was just interesting going to. Now that was the first Perfect Circle record done in studios. Like we went to Sunset Sound and recorded there, and at Dave Sardi's place in Hollywood Hills. But yeah, it was rare. Like I've always thought, like, oh, the clock is ticking. It costs a lot to go in studios. There's something amazing about being in a real recording studio. You know, like especially somewhere with enough history like that. If you don't know, if you're watching this and you haven't heard of Sunset Sound, Led Zeppelin and many early Van Halen records, and just so much great stuff. And then back in even before that. So that was interesting, different.